absolutely too many games coming out these days. Like, it's actually hard to keep track of everything. So I got to thinking and I decided to create a list. Of course, what's better than a list? To help you and me, I came up with a list of 10 announced games that we should probably be looking forward to. And if you stick around to the end, I'll give you a game that you can already play. And it's a game that none other than Shroud recently said was one of the greatest games ever made. And it just happens to currently be my favorite game to play. I truly think it's something special, so definitely stick around to check that out. Alright, it's been a while since I've had a good old-fashioned gaming montage, so how about we let one rip? Badass montage in 3, 2, 1. Alright, this list isn't in any particular order, it's just a straight up top 10 list of games that I think we should be keeping an eye on. So first up, this is one that I'm extremely excited about, and one that Nintendo seems to really not want to let us know when it's actually coming out. Metroid Prime 4 is supposed to be coming this year for the Switch and Switch 2, but at this point, if it slipped to 2026, it wouldn't surprise me. The lead up to this game has been absolute nonsense. It evidently got rebooted at some point, and it looked like we were never gonna see it. It was in development hell. Help me! But Nintendo finally gave us some solid gameplay earlier this year, and holy shit, it looked amazing. On Switch 2, this game runs at 4K when docked, and it hits upward of 120 frames per second. It even has mouse controls. If you had told me years ago that I would be playing a first-party Nintendo game that is 4K 120 with mouse support, I would have probably had you committed.
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here. Get out of here, man. Shit, I'm saying.
But here we are, and man, it looks awesome. The Metroid Prime series has always been special to me, and it's always delivered a stellar experience. Just honestly kind of wild, since Nintendo isn't known for making first-person shooters. But with the Prime series, they definitely showed they had what it takes. And hopefully Prime 4 lives up to the hype when it launches, sometime soon, maybe. Alright, up next we have a strange one. This is coming from the creators of Pokemon, but it's not at all what you think. Beast of Reincarnation was announced at the Xbox Game Showcase earlier in the year, and this was way out of left field for me. Not what I expected from Game Freak. But hey, I'm here for it. The trailer sets it up as an action RPG Souls-like game that follows protagonist Emma and her puppy pal Ku. You fight your way through this post-apocalyptic Japan with your dog in tow, using powers of the Blight to take control of plant life and help take back the world from the blighted creatures. We don't actually know too much about this game just yet, but what we have is just enough to have me very interested to see where this goes. Alright, next up is a game that is actually coming to closed beta in just a few days. 2XKO is a tag team fighting game coming from Riot, who of course are the creators of League of Legends and Valorant. They've shown time and time again that they have what it takes to make absolutely massive hits in every vertical they decide to hop into. One of my biggest problems with new fighting games is knowing that generally I'm going to get a year or so of support and then the developer just can't keep it going, and eventually the support falls off and so does the player base. If there's one thing we know Riot can do, it's support a game for the long term. I mean, League is almost as old as I am. So if you're looking for a fighting game to dig into that is almost guaranteed to be solid mechanically and stick around for a while, this is definitely one to keep your eye on. It's being developed by industry veterans and is set to hit closed beta on September 9th. Moving on, another game that I think has a huge potential to hit is The Blood of Dawnwalker. This is coming from Rebel Wolves. It's a new studio formed by devs that left CD Projekt Red after The Witcher 3 into development. And you can definitely tell. Blood of Dawnwalker has the CD Projekt Red vibe in spades. The game takes place in a gothic 14th century kingdom called Vel Sangora, and it draws heavily from Eastern European folklore. In typical CD Projekt Red fashion, this game looks to explore some very dark themes. You're basically playing a medieval blade, as you're a guy inflicted with a vampiric curse that hunts other vampires and has the ability to walk in the light, hence Dawnwalker. We recently got a gameplay deep dive, and the world and combat look phenomenal. And if it turns out half as good as The Witcher 3 did, then this will be well worth checking out. Alright, the next game I'd like to draw your attention to is Judas. This one is coming our way from legendary creator Ken Levine. If you're asking, Ken Levine, who the hell is that? Well, that's the visionary behind the BioShock series.
Is a man not entitled to the sweat of his brow?
Look, Mr. Bubbles, it's an angel.
And with his new game Judas, he's really trying to build a bigger interactive narrative, bigger than anything we've seen before. Ken called his take on this narrative Legos, where each decision really expands out into the world, causing lasting implications on the game and characters. Of course, we've heard this all before. So I'm approaching this with plenty of skepticism. But still, if Levine has gifted us some of my favorite games, I have no reason to doubt that he can pull this off. The most recent trailer showed a little bit of gameplay and definitely has that BioShock feel, but with a sci-fi twist. The whole game seems to take place on a spaceship that is transporting what's left of humanity on a generational journey to a new planet. And of course, with any good story about humanity starting anew, we have lots of sideways politics and people that want to help you create the new world how they see fit. The decisions here could paint a very different picture moment to moment and playthrough to playthrough. Definitely keep your eyes close on this one as we head toward a release hopefully next year. Alright, that's already 5 games that have a lot of promise. And to everyone's surprise, I haven't even mentioned Grand Theft Auto 6 yet. So, for number 6, Grand Theft Auto 6. I don't think I really have to discuss Grand Theft Auto 6 much. At this point, everybody and their grandma knows what Grand Theft Auto is.
Oh my god!
Well, maybe most grandmas. Rockstar makes some of the best games ever, and each release is guaranteed to be a global event. And of course, GTA 6 might just be the most anticipated Rockstar game ever. We're heading back to Vice City, and Grand Theft Auto 6 looks to be a new age Bonnie and Clyde with all the wild shit we expect from a Grand Theft Auto game. And unless we get slapped with another delay, we'll be able to play it on March 26th of 2026. So definitely looking forward to Grand Theft Auto, but that kind of goes without saying. That's kind of a cop-out. Almost as much of a cop-out as our next one. The Elder Scrolls. No, I'm kidding. No, we're not doing that. We're not going there.
So dang me, they ought to take a rope and hang me.
Alright, this next game is a sequel in a series that has had some incredibly high highs and some pretty low lows. But thankfully, it looks like we're back to the good old days with Borderlands 4. Now, the Borderlands series is one of my favorite series of all times, and they're one of the pioneers of the looter-shooter genre. Some might even call them the Mac Daddy of looters. But while the first 2 games roared their way through like the king of the looters they were, that third one just kind of whimpered its way in and out of existence. Most players, aside from die-hard Borderlands fans like myself, moved on to greener pastures, like the Destiny series or The Division. But The Division is long gone, and Destiny is on life support. So it's the perfect time for Gearbox to swing in and recapture the genre that they helped create. And thankfully, it looks like Borderlands 4 is gonna be good. Really good.
So good.
They are finally getting back to a more grounded approach to storytelling, where Borderlands 3 felt more like a parody. Borderlands 4 is aiming to feel more like a serious story, but with that Borderlands wit and charm sprinkled in. They are adding a host of quality of life improvements, like the ability to directly farm for the loot you want, and as is much needed, they are refreshing the gameplay systems quite a bit as well. Borderlands 4 has a seamless open world to explore as opposed to the zone-based worlds of the previous games. It has bigger than ever skill trees and specializations that carry over between characters. And a much needed movement overhaul, adding in things like a grappling hook, a dashing mechanic, and the ability to glide. We won't have to wait long to judge Borderlands 4 for ourselves, because at the time of recording, Borderlands 4 releases in just over a week on September 12th. Up next, I'm gonna bundle two into one. One is a PlayStation title, one is an Xbox title, and they're both Marvel, so here we go. Of course, it's Marvel's Wolverine and Marvel's Blade. I'm sticking these together because my hype level is about the same for both of them, and we know about the same amount of information for both as well. Wolverine is of course coming from Insomniac. Fresh off of their success with Spider-Man, we get their take on Logan himself. We haven't seen much on this aside from a leak that actually turned out just to be a modded version of Just Cause, so we've actually seen nothing. I assume it'll be more focused and less open than Spider-Man, as traversal with Wolverine just wouldn't hit quite like slinging webs in my opinion. Now, Marvel's Blade is a game that's coming from developer Arcane Studios Leon. Fresh off the phenomenal Deathloop, Arcane is trying their hand at the vampire killer himself, and I'm honestly a little more excited for this one. Not because I'm more of a Blade fan, but just because Arcane makes absolute gems, and I cannot wait to see what they do here. Neither game has a release date, so let's move on to something that we might actually get next year. This next one is actually coming in 2026, supposedly, and it was a huge surprise for me. Before seeing this game at the Xbox Game Showcase, it was not on my radar at all. But after that event, Clockwork Revolution is set to be one of my favorites of the year. This one also has a bit of BioShock similar to Judas, but with a much heavier RPG focus. Almost like you took BioShock and Fallout and threw them into a blender while sprinkling in your favorite steampunk seasoning. The gameplay for this absolutely blew me away. From the abilities to weapon crafting to the way you were able to bend time to your will, and just the tone of the world and the game itself is something special. Clockwork Revolution is gearing up to be one of the best games of the year, and you can quote me on that. And it's surprisingly coming from a team whose last game couldn't have been further from a first-person shooter. And Exile Entertainment is more known for their CRPG titles like Wasteland and the Bard's Tale series. We'll see if the game actually hits when it launches in 2026, but for now, it's definitely worth keeping an eye on. And lastly, what list of upcoming games would be complete without a FromSoft title? And since we can't officially say that we're getting a Bloodborne 2, we have the next best thing. A new IP by the name of the Duskbloods. This one was announced at the Switch 2 reveal showcase, and it really showcased how serious Nintendo is about their third-party support this time around. If they could just finally maybe provide dev kits, Nintendo, thanks.
Have you ever had a dream that
Nintendo actually helped their platform become viable for third parties? Anyways, the hype around a new FromSoft title is real, and even though the initial announcement of it being PvPvE did have me a bit worried, the excellent Elden Ring Night Rain has made me a firm believer that FromSoft knows what they're doing here. This game aesthetically looks very similar to Bloodborne, but gameplay is a whole different story. Players choose from different characters known as Bloodsworn, who are vampire-like characters possessing unique weapons and abilities. There's a dedicated hub area for customization and pregame antics, such as choosing your blood history. Huh? Yeah, it's definitely a FromSoft game. Choosing your blood history is how you both learn about in-game lore and change your abilities, attributes, and appearance. Each blood history and fate gives players a specific role, which helps them determine what they will do in each match. One example given is the Destined Rivals role, which requires you to find and defeat a specified rival, while the Destined Companion role does the exact opposite and tasks you with finding a certain ally for an in-game reward. Roles and challenges are said to be dynamic and influenced by various factors in the game itself. Yeah, this all sounds pretty weird and wild, but look, in FromSoft we trust. They haven't led us astray yet, so I'm just going to let them cook and keep my eye out for Duskbloods, hopefully coming sometime soon. So that's 10 games to keep your eye on. We're constantly getting bombarded with yearly cash grabs and gacha games, but these 10 I think have a very good chance of being something special. I intentionally didn't put on, Battlefield, Call of Duties. I kind of wanted to focus on things that people might not be expecting with this video. You stuck around to the end, and I appreciate that. If you liked the video, like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, but you're here for the game that you can play right now. And this is a game that Shroud just said could be one of the best games ever made, and people just don't know it yet. And of course, I'm speaking about Deadlock. Deadlock is the newest release from Valve. Yep, the same Valve that gave us both Steam and Half-Life. Valve is one of those companies that you pay attention to. When they release a game, whether it's Portal or Left 4 Dead, you're guaranteed to get a solid, often amazing game, and Deadlock might be one of their best. Deadlock is a MOBA with a heavy splash of hero shooters thrown in for good measure. And even though it is still in an invite-only phase, it has more players concurrently than both Overwatch 2 and Destiny 2. That's insane to me. And it's got remarkable charm and depth for a game that is still in early access. In typical MOBA fashion, you play on a map with 3 lanes, pushing adds down the lane to eventually reach the enemy base and destroy their patron to win. But the magic here is in the gameplay and the depth. Build crafting is absolutely insane, and each character plays vastly different from one another. It all kind of sounds like a generic MOBA on paper, but when you get in game, something just clicks and you realize how special this game really is. You'd think other companies would have done this mix-up of MOBA and hero shooter already because it just works. Maybe Battleborn really was ahead of its time. Now, this is a MOBA with an emphasis on movement, player expression, and dexterity. The map and the game flow are something that really keeps me engaged. Where other MOBAs can feel slow at the start, Deadlock definitely does not have that problem. Clever implementation of the store helps push the genre forward where you can actually buy while you're still on lane. And there's even a built-in build guide where players can share their builds that they've created. This helps lend itself to the game's already strong sense of community where players can share their builds as well as players all vote on who the next character coming to the game will be. If you want to dive into Deadlock, you'll have to be invited, but securing an invite is pretty easy thanks to the game's Discord and subreddit. Just go in, ask, and most players are more than happy to invite you and get you in and playing. Anyway, there's 10 games, plus one that you can play right now. Hopefully there was something in there that interested you or that you didn't know before. Out of the 10, are you looking forward to any of those? Are there any that's on your hype level? Let me know what you think down in the comments, and I appreciate you watching.